Hello. Thank you. Hello, good evening and welcome, as somebody used to say. My name is Phil Barnes. I'm chair of the RTS London Centre, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the IBC review co-hosted by the IET Central London Network and the RTS London Centre. Now, the IET organise free monthly lectures promoting its values of inform, inspire and influence. And similarly, the RTS has frequent events that aim to inform, educate and entertain. Copyright Lord Reith. We've done this for a few years, so each organisation is keen that the other organisation kind of gets you as members. So there'll be some information at the end that might encourage you to sign up to one or other of the organisations. So a little bit of housekeeping before we start. There are no fire alarms planned tonight. So if you hear the fire alarm, please follow the exit signs and the instructions of the staff and gather under Waterloo Bridge, which I think is the most sort of
underwater.
No. Under Waterloo Bridge, the most romantic sort of far place to kind of go, isn't it? If you've got your phones with you, you're very welcome to use them, but please keep them on silent. And everything else you need is back out through the foyer. Afterwards, there'll be more refreshments and opportunity to continue the discussion and for networking. But now I'd like to commence proceedings by inviting the chair of the IBC Council, Mark Smith, to say a few words, but I'll let everybody get into their seats. That was me. This is Mark.
Yes, thank you very much, Phil. Great. Good to be here. I was here last year, and I think it was a slightly different feel to things last year. I think there's one of the things anecdotally that the council talked about a lot this year about the show was that the nervousness of the industry of the last few years has been replaced somewhat. I should move closer to the microphone. Has been replaced a little bit by more confidence and a little bit more excitement around the industry about what's to come in the future. We've got some numbers, I think, here of attendees. Now, it was down in terms of numbers slightly, about 1,000 on last year. But I think, from what certainly I was told at the council, it's very much an advisory committee for IBC, is that, the quality of visitor was up, definitely. And there was a younger dynamic for sure this year, and that was very kind of tangible, I think, to many. We had things like the IBC Google collaboration around a hackathon, a Hackfest. We have the Accelerators, and we have a number of other initiatives, our talent program, which, Muki, I think you're going to talk about, which I think has really helped to drive that dynamic, the younger dynamic, more diverse dynamic across the show, which I think we're delighted about. So you can see some of the numbers: 48,858 attendees, 1,300 exhibitors, tons of content generated on social media. I think that's the thing that really I've been struck by this year, how much of a buzz and a vibe about the positivity of the show we saw on social this year. Tons of content, 198 hours of content. We have many stages at the show, and I think, those stages were kind of really well attended, whether it was Content Everywhere, whether it was the Future Tech stage, whether it was the Showcase Theatre. We had a lot of people come through those. I think about 13,000 come through some of those stages. So big numbers for the show content. And anecdotally from the council, some things from some CTOs that sit on our council. As I said, the nervousness of the past few years has been replaced by a newfound confidence in the future. IBC had a real special vibe this year, energetic, future-aligned, a facelift that gave the industry a much-needed boost of excitement. It felt forward-looking. AI, hero or hype, it definitely shook things up. And excited to see where it's going to go in the future. Many have said that, the hype around AI particularly has been replaced by some really tangible use cases, some real world use cases, which is great. We certainly had that in the Accelerator program. And I talk about that younger dynamic, and I know for a fact that RTE from Ireland brought 25 people, many of them young people, which I think is an investment, not just in the development of those people, but in the future and in innovation for the industry. And I think that's really exciting. I mean, Globo from Brazil brought 27 people to the show this year, which is phenomenal, really, when you think of the cost of that and travel and things. So lots of key themes around particularly AI, of course, but interoperability and convergence between traditional broadcast and non-traditional kind of applications, and particularly pro AV in that corporate video sector that we're seeing quite a bit of interest in the show. So overall, I think, and I feel that the show have reflected an industry that's kind of very much embracing a different future than one might have imagined pre-COVID, that is embracing flexibility, intelligence and interoperability. And I think many of these things have been reflected in our Accelerator program, Muki, which you're going to talk about. So with that, I hope that's a little setup for your panel. And it's great to see you all. I'm going to hand you over to Nadine, Dereza here, who's going to compare this next session. But welcome. Great to see so many people here tonight.
Yes, I think we were all in Amsterdam and concur with what you're just saying, that it felt really buzzy, even though the numbers were slightly down. It didn't feel that way, did it? So on behalf of RTS London, also the IET's Media Technical Network, I also want to welcome you to this event. So good evening, everybody. And we're going to be looking at shaping the future of entertainment and technology through the lens of IBC 2025. But before we get the panel discussion underway, I thought I'd give you a sense of the occasion and get a flavour of what IBC 2025 was like. And we're going to cross live in just a moment to our roving reporter, who looks and sounds like someone very familiar in this room. So over to you, Nadine, and I think she's still stuck in Amsterdam.
Well, thank you, Nadine. And yes, I'm here at IBC 2025 here in Amsterdam, and all the halls and the conference sessions are packed full of delegates. Well, that's all from me here at IBC for 2025. Nadine, it's back to you in the studio. Sorry, I mean Savoy Place.
Well, thank you, Nadine. And what was your favourite part of IBC 2025?
All 14. Well, you did ask.
Oh dear. Well, Nadine, are you still there? We seem to have lost the signal. Thank you to Nadine. Thank you. And I must say, Hall 14, that Future Tech Hall, that did pack a punch. It was new this year, and it had all sorts of emerging technologies and collaborative projects. So I think Nadine is not alone in loving Hall 14, and I'm sure we're going to unpick it later, because that's where you spent most of your time, Muki, as well. So thank you again, Nadine. She was one of 43,858 people who attended this year's event. And I'm delighted to say that we have a panel tonight who are going to unpick IBC from their perspective. So first up, I want to welcome Dan, who's the acting CTO from Formula E, the most sustainable sport on the planet.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you. So how was IBC for you?
As I always find that IBC is a snapshot of the industry every year, so you'll sort of get a measure of it. For me, what was almost quite exciting was we seem to have finally gotten away from this idea of selling boxes. And we got into this concept of it's the people that are writing the stuff that's in the boxes now. And as we used to be in a world, especially when you were shifting like, huge EVSs and stuff, where people would say, "Oh, we don't make any money on our people." I remember that one supplier once said that to me. Like, why on earth not? That's the bit that's valuable. And it felt like that was what was coming through. You could see that in IBC's own investment, but also in the people that each company brought.
Brilliant, thank you. And Tia, Royal Television Society's Young Technologist of the Year 2025. Woo! And a broadcast engineer, no less.
Yes, a broadcast engineer.
Yeah. So, IBC, not for the first time.
No, my second.
Yeah, your second year, because I know last year you were doing some work on the Accelerator project, but this year you were unleashed. So where did you find your time being spent?
So being my second year, I still found it so interesting to have a look around all the halls, although I still feel like there's so many and I get lost so easily. But I found myself spending a lot of time in Hall 14, being truly surrounded by the next generation of technology and the newest ideas. I found that to be kind of the highlight and where I found myself the most out of the entire show.
Yeah, indeed. And we'll pick up on that again later because there was a lot happening in Hall 14. Ian Nock, welcome to you as well, CEO of Fairmite West. And this post that you did yesterday made me smile because you said you're breaking the rule of what happens in Amsterdam stays in Amsterdam by actually appearing at IBC Review tonight. But you're doing it from a television technology business and operations perspective. We want it from every perspective, don't we, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah. Yes. Ian, welcome to you.
Thank you. So this year was my 26th IBC, which is the continuous run since 1998. That's rather a lot. It does tend to be a little bit wild in Amsterdam, particularly after the 8 p.m. in the evening. Doesn't really change. It's still the same. Just maybe a little bit earlier in the evening you get back to bed nowadays. But yeah, so it really was very much an IBC afresh every year, basically. And the one thing I took away from IBC is not only Hall 14, because I did also spend a lot of time there because I was involved in a couple of accelerator projects. But the other thing that really defined for me is that finally, after a number of years since someone talked about IT-ification of broadcast, sometime in the sort of 2017 era, I think, I would say we're at the point now where we can say that we're in a software-defined world. Even where those people still need hardware, there is still the whole thing has to be managed and controlled from a pure software perspective. And that's the key thing to take away from this IBC. As Dan said, no boxes.
Yeah, good to have you.
Except the off-the-shelf boxes.
Yeah. Thank you, Ian. And Muki, welcome to you, IBC Accelerator lead, who had an incredibly busy time. I saw you running sessions on the Future Tech stage. It's probably 3 weeks since you've come back, but I imagine it was a hugely busy 4 days for you.
I'm still there in my heart, Nadine.
Yeah.
And ticking the boxes, of course, too. Yes, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight, and thank you, Terry and Phil and everybody at IET for putting this together. And thanks, Mark, for the introduction, because it really, what happened this year, it really was showing, the growth and like where the industry is. We are living in the transition right now of, from the kit and hardware into the software, and then there's this like the tipping point where we're all tipping together and kind of rolling through that see-through ball together almost, where you see multi-generations come to IBC, and it's so fantastic to see this. So in Hall 14, yes, so in my 6th year running with the Accelerator program with Mark and our colleague Karen Boyd, and I think it was like my 9th IBC. I did what caught my eye with Terry a long time ago, maybe 2017. So what was happening for me was obviously looking after the Accelerator program and the 9 projects that we had, and I was like project lead for 3 of them, the 3 AI projects, which I'm going to kind of go into a little bit more. I'm not talking about the accelerators now, am I?
No,
am I waiting there? Okay, thank you. That's a good cue. But sometimes when you're looking after teams and your stands, it's really tricky to kind of go to the other halls. And every once in a while, I'm like, right, I've got like a 20-minute break, and I see how many halls I can get through in one go without like my feet falling off. Or I set a challenge. There used to be like, how many pens can you get in half an hour? Challenge, and just to like get to the other halls. But I think ultimately, I felt that buzz. I felt that change. I saw a lot of new faces, which is really, really great to see, and obviously familiar faces at the beach bar.
Yes.
As well too. So
well, good to have you here, colourful as ever. So thank you very much to all of our panel. And some of the key themes that shaped IBC this year were artificial intelligence, cloud computing, advertising technology, OTT and streaming, connected technologies, and immersive technology. And we're going to pick up on some of those things and add in and sprinkle a few other things as well. And AI, as Mark has mentioned, it felt like a buzzword last year, but this year felt so much more tangible and integrated into media and entertainment workflows compared, to last year and the previous year. So I think this year AI stepped up its game. So from your point of view, Tia, is that how you saw it too?
I do definitely think so. A highlight for me for a company or a product which used AI was definitely Dolby's new HDR2, which is so phenomenal and so exciting to see the HDR space growing as it is. But I definitely do think that the development of AI for products specifically has grown, and I look forward to seeing how far it can go, especially seeing all the products that are happening currently. I'm excited for the future of it.
Yeah, Dan, and agentic AI, generative AI and speech recognition for creativity processes and automation, that's where AI was really captured at IBC this year. Did you discover that and get excited by it?
I think so. The other thing I'd say is it's almost the hype of it is moving on.
Yeah.
And it's now into a world where it's first off affordable, because it used to be the case that you could do all these lovely things with AI, but after the demo, you realized it was actually cheaper to employ armies of people than it was to pay for the AI. And now it's getting a sort of reality check about how it's going to work and what you can do. And it's starting to get the interoperability so that you can put it in at scale and at an affordable rate. It starts to show its value then.
And Ian, from your point of view, did you think that agentic AI would eventually touch every corner of the media value chain, from production and infrastructure to the viewer's living room or wherever else you watch your TV?
Well, it's developing now as a technology, and it has to make an evolution into product orientation and actually being useful to people. I think at the moment people are experimenting with the technologies, and I'm also a little person who basically, when I say software-defined platforms, to me AI is part of that. AI is software, and it's part of the adaptations and developments that have taken place actually over the last 20 or so plus years. And we've had AI presented at IBC before, just we didn't necessarily call it AI. I think that the growth in Gen AI and other new models and the multimodal models as well, that's where really the new developments have taken place. But even there, at the end of the day, we've got a good and effective use of artificial intelligence-based technologies throughout the value chain in places where we didn't talk about it, but we should mention it, from anything from TV screens and up conversion through to encoding efficiencies that are gained through application of artificial intelligence, and that's just growing. But of course, the hype has to have some return, and we're starting to see some of that return now. It's got to develop further. I wouldn't say we're not running yet. We're still walking, but at least not crawling like we were. I felt last year.
Muki.
I think there's a bit of sashaying going on with AI when you say it. You know what? I think no one cares about the use of the words AI. It's just like, stop talking about it. Show me. Show me the examples. Show me what's being done. The three, most of the Accelerator project used some form of automation, and the three that focused on AI specifically, you're mentioning agentic systems with AI agents, assistants for live productions. And there were 20-some members of the team are in this room today, and that was showcasing 20 specific agents all working together. But we kind of were weaning away from calling things artificial, so it's more intelligent systems. Because the AI is not a tool, it's a system, and it's a series of intelligent things, software. Yeah, we could duke it out, you and me, outside.
It's just very good software.
Software.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's very good software. We'll agree with that mantra by the end of it.
Yeah.
So in terms of the accelerator projects that you did, which obviously was in that field of AI, or software, for people that don't know the Accelerator program, obviously it's been going for a number of years now, just briefly sort of set up, because there were 9 in total, 8 and then an incubator project. So
Correct.
Just give us a brief highlight over
Correct.
it.
So I do have slides in my hand because I thought we were going to show them, but don't worry, I'm going to be around for drinks afterward, and I have a QR code that you can come back to the page. So the Accelerators just completed its 6th year. We're going to be starting a whole new cycle, but it was created as a framework to be IBC's flagship R&D labs and own program, but it's a framework to kind of really bring the industry together. And the projects are primarily proposed by champions, who are broadcasters, studios, academia. Our partners like IET and SMPTE have been project leads and champions, and they set out a challenge that they're all trying to figure out the hiccups in the industry. How can we all hiccup together and experience this together? And
it's a
when the
fast track.
proposals, it's a fast track. So when the projects get proposed, we get about like 30 or 40 so. The call's going to be going out next week. And so we get 30 or 40 so come in. 12 are chosen to present at Kickstart Day in February. And then from there, only 8 are chosen to go through as projects. But what happens when the champions propose this and we start to promote it and internally through all the networks, then we make sure that participants are on board, who are the vendors or suppliers. So you've got the buyers and the sellers of the technology engaged in very well-crafted consortiums that are led by the synergies to help explore the solutions. It's never about building a final product or platform or a final solution. It's about the learning by doing. It's very fast-tracked. By the time the teams are formed, you've got about 4 months, sometimes 3 months, to showcase what you've been exploring. No wrong answers. Then we showcase everything at IBC, warts and all, on stage in the form of a showcase session. It's not really a panel because we're showcasing what we've achieved. Yeah. And also then, as everyone has been saying, in Hall 14 at the Accelerator Zone, which we sometimes call our Mad Scientist Science Fair. Yeah. So each project gets its own pod where you got live demos. You're able to showcase the videos, the decks, the proof of concepts. And we start to see and hear people start to scheme for the next year. Because always when you do fast track R&D, you're jumping in the deep end. You're trying to also, we're presenting this as like a very kind of very professional proof of concepts and MVPs that are being formed. And so everyone puts a lot of care, a lot of time into it to showcase themselves, the companies, and what the concepts are.
Well, you've got international broadcasters. You've got
we put the eye back into IBC, honey.
Yeah,
a lot of this.
You have indeed, and it's well worth looking at the website actually to look at all the accelerator projects in detail. But there's one I think in particular that you wanted to highlight, wasn't there? That you've got some video footage of. So let's get that one out of the way.
Yes, and I do. If I have an opportunity at some point before this panel ends, I would like to kind of just give a little shout out to all the projects that we led, because they did range from EcoFlow, some of the ones that Ian was in, and Master Control Clouds, and well, I guess I'm doing it now.
Yeah. Well, just stick to one at the moment.
So let's just stick to one now. So this project, I know that you were there in the audience. And so was Phil. So as one of the accelerator leads, I have the privilege and pleasure to lead these groups and just corral and kind of, be the mother hen and herding cats. I think T has been a part of these projects as well. But this particular one is called A Framework for Generative AI. And this was set out by Globo from Brazil, Rai from Italy, EBU, YLE, TV2, Channel 4, and ITV. And so this is so basically what they set out to do is create a framework utilizing several different tools that they tested out over 20, then plugged in APIs into one orchestrator. And there were 2 work streams into this. You could see this demo is all available on the website. I've got a link that you can come check it out. So what you're seeing here is just a little bit of a walkthrough of the one work stream that wanted to specifically target rapid prototyping. And this comes in handy for storyboarding, scripting, iteration, character design, narrative. This was the most creative accelerator we've had in a really, really long time. It was focusing on the content, on the storytelling, on director, producer, DOP roles. Second track here, you could see a generative movie maker that was really looking into what would a long form piece of content look like. That not only this is not just about churning out AI slop. This is about creating something that is hyper-realistic, photorealistic, that it would be broadcast quality. What would a broadcaster need to set out an RFP? What would a broadcaster would be proud to promote on air? And what we're finding is that the rapid prototyping is fine, and anything can happen with that, but it took a long, long time to really create a trailer and episodic content for what turned out to be a mini-series. But as you can see here from, you saw a little bit of that architecture, a lot of a track for the framework and a track for the creative. And this was a Canva board. This is all sped on ×2, by the way. When you see the video, it's a little bit slower. So please don't get dizzy. But you could see the process, a lot of the care that was put into the creative process. But what was beautiful, like heaven for me, is seeing the creative teams really lean into the technology that was behind it. And the technology track came to the creative calls. You normally think it was two work streams focusing on two different things, but they all blended over into each other. And that's what it's about. Everyone learning from each other and building something that, like, well, let's try this and see if it works. And ultimately, the major learnings of this is that it still takes time. Everything went back to that human creator and the brain who was developing the characters or the narrative and the storyline. You know, what does the log line look like? Tweak it again, tweak it again, tweak it again, tweak it again. And we found that the teams that the AI and the platforms and the orchestrator that was being used became a team member. Almost, and it was great just to plug and bounce in. We had Google Cloud on that project. We had AMD on that project. We had Pluxbox, a brilliant writer from Tel Aviv, Yara Monachino. We had a Berlin studio, the Pluxbox in Amsterdam, and Animatics in Switzerland. So it was a truly international group that we had here too. So if we roll that second video, so what you're going to see now is the result of the POC. So this is a trailer made using the long form orchestrator. So we can roll VT with sound and lights down, please. Thank you.
Oh, exciting.
If the lights
My
go
team
down.
and I built a world, a ghost of Rome, born from data and code. We called it Arena, not just a game, a mirror, gladiators, hyper-real, history sold as spectacle. It was built to remember violence, but what if it remembers mercy? We fed our AI 2,000 years of history, its triumphs, its art. I admired its beauty, but they wanted blood.
My life is my arena, and my fight is for freedom.
Then something broke. The code rewrote itself. Can't you see? It's not breaking, Marco. It's evolving. It's choosing empathy over instinct.
Choosing? Nora, you are the scientist. You should know. It's broken. We're losing everything.
If your code grows a conscience, you debug it. Or burn it.
Or we're gaining something extraordinary. A chance to build AI with a conscience.
You're asking us to bet the company, bet us on a glitch. We promised blood, Nora, not therapy.
It's all right. You have all failed me. This is unacceptable.
Great. We promised blood sports and delivered a digital kumbaya. Marketing's gonna love this.
Tech genius or national threat?
Arena's compassion glitch exposed.
Nora Halaby, the dangerous face of woke culture?
Compassion protocol breach.
They painted me as unstable, while the world cheered for blood. They said I lost control, but maybe I set it free.
The arena was only practice. The empire begins now.
Are you still watching?
Wow.
So again, it's a trailer for the demonstrate. Thank you. It's a trailer for the demonstration of the framework. But again, they didn't stop at just making just the log line for one thing. It's an 8-part episodic miniseries.
And where can we watch this?
Well, it's the episodics were log lined out, so you see this trailer. So,
okay.
But it's just a great example of also, the broadcasters knowing that there's still a long way to go before there's the highest quality.
Yeah.
Could be, meet compliance, meet due diligence, meet, another part of this group also had a huge like workshops, and part of the proof of concept asset was a paper all around ethics and responsibility. And so that was like a gigantically huge priority and became a third track.
Yeah.
So everything's going to be available on the website. So
well, thank you, Muki.
That's one project. There's 8 more to go.
We're not going to do all the others, but I think that just gives you a flavour of the Accelerator programme. So thank you very much for showcasing that. And night at the movies for everybody. That was a surprise, eh? And just moving on now.
To say Roll VT.
Roll VT, yeah. Dan, from your point of view, not all innovations will give an immediate return on investment, will they? When you think about your role as CTO for Formula E, and the kind of projects that you're backing, which might be AI or immersive base. So how are organisations like Formula E actually balancing cost pressures versus pushing forward with immersive or AI-driven tech? What's the considerations you're going through?
Well, I mean, I would say often they do turn pretty quickly, actually, right? So within a investment cycle, say up to 3 years, you normally can see that change through. One of our biggest challenges is freight. So we are a sustainable championship that still has to fly around the world. So freight is hugely important to us. And where we are looking for support from vendors is in getting stuff off-site and into the cloud. And that investment pays for itself relatively quickly, surprisingly so, that you say, no, we really want to do this, and you need to sell this to us. You thinking we're going to save our money in headcount or similar? Actually, no, it's in aviation fuel that makes that big difference. So I think that I wouldn't necessarily agree that it's you need to have that innovation pot, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think you can breed that into what we do.
Across the board?
Across the board, yeah.
Interesting, okay. And I know Google Cloud Hackfest, were you obviously over that or not? Because I know Formula E's data was fed into that. Is there anything you can tell us about that? That was at IBC as well. it a live production pipeline which drew on the feeds from Formula E and the penalty shootout, no less?
And the penalty shootout, yes.
Which did you take part in?
I had a go. I wasn't very good.
Right. Did anybody else have a go? Who was at IBC this year that had a go at the penalty shootout?
Mark Smith had
Mark. So you're going to have to explain what it is. Is that good or bad?
You have your card on you.
So we partner with Google Cloud. They're a sponsor of ours to try and showcase their technology in action. We use all of their cloud services. We moved all the media workflows over to Google Cloud. Plus, we use their AI in the back end. Different people make the agents, but the foundational model and the LLM is always a Google Cloud model that we use. We've been using that, it's not necessarily a media use, but we've been using that moment to help train drivers. And particularly, we sort of call it a democratization piece about getting, motorsport's traditionally quite an elitist sport. And so people that have the money to pay for engineers and teams, etc., are able to get on. Whereas with AI, what you've been able to do is we take telemetry data off simulators and then get them to feed in a race engineer either into their ear sets or into reports that come later. They give them, it's not the same, but it is very close to give them that step up. So you start to get some seat time for people.
Yeah, okay. And Tia, from your point of view, in what areas do you think AI is going to make the biggest difference in the next, say, 12 to 24 months? And where will human skills still dominate?
Of course. So I think AI can actually be really supportive in terms of accessibility for content. It's something that I'm quite passionate about, of how can we make things more accessible for those who don't consume content the same way we do. So I'm going to point out an example from NHK, Japan's national broadcaster, where they basically made a system which could pull out the key aspects and attributes of a video, which could be used for tagging metadata, which of course can be used for adverts and kind of triggering adverts. But more so, I can see it being used for things like audio description. So in those sorts of instances, AI can be perfect for becoming the framework for the next generation of how we consume media in an accessible way. But in the same breath, I feel like other examples from NHK with work for accessibility, like Kiki service, which was presented last year, there's still aspects which need to remain innately human when it comes to accessibility and content, making sure that you remain representative of the community which you're trying to benefit.
Yeah. And did you get that sense that people were still frightened about their roles at IBC, or could they actually see, no, this is going to complement what we're doing?
I definitely think there was a positive look towards it. I mean, AI is definitely within our infrastructure. It's everything that we touch nowadays, especially for people of my generation. We're seeing it constantly. So it's very much here to stay, and I think people are aware of that. And there is, of course, some sort of concern about the future of it, but I do feel like innately people are accepting of it and encouraging it, especially within busy workflows and with automation.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm sure there might be some questions from the audience about AI later on. You've got a point to make, yeah.
Tia's remark around accessibility. So we did have a lot of one of our other associate sponsor was Shure Technology. So of course we all know Shure microphones, audio, but they have more than that. And so they were part of AI agents and part of the 5G conquering the airwaves project, and so there was specific things being specifically made for voice to text speech recognition, so it could be accessible like in a gallery on location, and that went into part of the proof of concept materials, and I think that was a really nice it was recognized across the board across so many of these projects there too. So it's like tech for good, AI for good, right? And I don't think people feel scared that much anymore. I mean, it just depends what job you're talking about, I guess. So
yeah, it depends on what industry you're in.
Yeah, but I think in accessibility, I think it's a really great point to bring up.
Yeah,
I haven't got any data on it, but anecdotally, there does appear to be an awful lot more jobs being created that have got AI in them than it seems to be losing.
We like that anecdotal evidence. Ian?
Yeah, no, as a sort of semi-point I made, we've had AI in engineering solutions for many years. It's been shown at IBC. The early days of things like content-aware encoding, which were optimizing encoding paths to actually optimize for a quality target rather than a bitrate target, and that can achieve 20-30% performance or bitrate improvements for the same quality video. That's been around for a long while. This year, with the organizations I've been involved in, we've had other parties coming through with tools that are taking that to the nth degree. So they're really looking at getting between 50 and 70% improvement in the same quality of video. And that is all through application of the very latest models and the latest processing. And that's not about cutting people's jobs. That's about making what we do better. And similarly, it's not just about reducing bitrate, it's about improving quality, taking what I lovingly called non-pristine content and converting it to modern quality standards, like with HDR and with 4K resolution, even though the source content could be 1080i based SDR content from 10, 15 years ago, basically. And people are putting a lot of applications like that together to effectively improve what we have and make it better and work well.
Well, it's quite funny. Last year, this IBC review, someone said we didn't talk enough about AI, whereas actually this year we've spoken a lot already. So let's move on because we've got other things to discuss. But you may have questions later on that you want to find out about AI, if there's anything you need clarifying or something that we haven't covered off. So one of the key themes at IBC was a focus on cloud and hybrid workflows. And there were many discussions around how IP, cloud, remote production are reshaping technical architecture. So, Dan, I want to get your thoughts on that and particularly look at how remote production technologies are fundamentally reshaping how broadcasters create and deliver content. So moving away from that traditional on-site equipment-heavy workflows towards more flexible IP-based operations. And that's something Formula E does through and through to its core, doesn't it? Remote production.
Correct. So we went remote just before COVID, and then everybody very quickly followed. I think what's changed in the remote model now is it used to be a case of, let's sort of offshore some of the bits that we're not so fussed about, right? So they push off EVS and replay. They have maybe some transcription and things like that. Or maybe they do the commentary off tube, but the director still sat on site because that's where the director wanted to sit. And now you're seeing that sort of reversal of where is the powerhouse in a remote model and which bit's called remote, right? And that's the bit that's going. I used to call the remote centre the bit that stayed in the UK, and now it's the other way around, which the remote centre is the bit that's on site with some cameras, and that's really sort of changed it from a sustainability standpoint. that's huge, absolutely huge to every organisation doing it, but especially those travelling circuses like ours, like Formula One, like the ATP. And the next step is really to get it all into the cloud. And still the barrier to the cloud is the hybrid bit. You have to get it in the first place. And then every time you sort of want to go into an EBS, you've got to come out again and go back in again. And I think that will always be a challenge until the critical mass is done in the cloud anyway.
So, Tia, from your point of view, it may reduce costs, but are latency and reliability trade-offs too big a price to pay? Or do you think that this is something that we're all heading towards and actually there'll be less on-prem and more cloud going forward?
I do definitely feel like going forward there's going to be a lot of hybrid workflows, especially as you mentioned, a lot of the broadcasters are looking to reduce the impact on the climate with all the content that they make. But I think that saying that there's a trade-off between that and latency, I think that's still in contention, since for a lot of the streaming giants coming forward, latency is so important for the viewers to get the newest content as soon as it comes in. So I think it's a difficult question to ask, but I don't think that there's a turn-off just yet.
And Ian, from your point of view, where's the tipping point where cloud and remote production makes sense over traditional, say, studio setups and OBs outside broadcasts?
I think it really comes in on the new investment cycle you follow, because it makes sense by default right now. As I mentioned, software-defined workflows are where we are now. It's what we thought about 8-9 years ago, but we're there now. And right now, it's just down to when you decide to make that change to your current infrastructure and your current setup and current workflow. You should be looking to integrate new cloud-based mechanisms in there as a replacement, a drop-in replacement for what you may have traditionally used on-prem stuff for.
The worst thing you can do for the environment is to throw away all the stuff you've already got.
It's on the investment cycle.
Use that until the end of its lifetime.
Yeah. And Muki, from your point of view, the projects that you're involved with, those topics of latency, synchronization, network reliability, I don't know, for virtual production, extended reality, what kind of discussions did your teams have that you were overseeing?
Yeah, well, I think myself and my colleagues Mark and Karen were looking at, I want to just kind of cover the focus of some of their project around. There was ultra low latency, ultra low latency streaming at scale, which is a little bit of a step up from a project last year, and EcoFlow 2, talking about sustainability, talking about cloud. Ian, you were involved in that one, I believe.
Yes.
Yes, well, I know you were. I believe it, and I believe myself because I just said it. Okay, and then master control cloud brackets with where broadcast comms meets web tech, right? So there's like several layers of like these projects that are overlapping to all of these conversations here that have had really intensified deep dive exploration, multi-vendor software, live media exchange, and one that I definitely, obviously EcoFlow 2 is worth talking about for a second, but another one that Mark was leading around conquering the airwaves with private 5G from land to sea to sky has been that evolution of our friends at Strathclyde that made the private 5G network that ultimately,
the 5G in a box.
The 5G in a box covered the Queen's, funeral, the King's coronation, the
Olympics.
And next, what did they do? They put private 5G in an airplane.
It was a light aircraft, wasn't it?
It was a light aircraft in front of the Accelerator zone in Hall 14.
Yeah, much more impressive was putting it in Hall 14.
Exactly. Well, Mark is available for a drink afterward to tell you the joys of getting that airplane into Hall 14.
Yes.
But all of those projects completely overlap with all of these conversations. And these are things that this industry is hungry to continue to learn about. And just to try, what will solve some of these issues that you can deploy to market, that you can get stuck in, that you can bring back to the gallery. The other areas are like around that remote production, and our incubator covered, the use of remote production in AI and live sports and personalization. But I think it's just, it's pushing the boundaries of what's not been done before. And I think the broadcasters, IP owners, content providers are all thinking about that end user finally. And I think the audience got left out over the last couple of years of where are things going on a phone, on a device, is that remotely? How quickly can you get it So latency, cloud, the sustainability elements, accessibility are completely relevant more than ever before.
Dan?
And I think there is a trade-off with latency, but it's a trade-off that once you've tried it, most people are willing to make. You say to a director, do you want everything 400 milliseconds faster, or do you want to double the size of your replay team? They generally then say, "Oh, I'll have the replay team." It's when you give them those choices, they start to make it. And also, as an industry, remote production is not new to us anymore, so we are now skilled in it. We know how to do it. We know how to synchronize things and get around it. Directors have learned to work together. The one thing that Formula E did when it went remote is it split the direction. You used to have one director, did everything, and now it's split it into sub-direction cuts that come in. And actually that opened up that individual to be able to concentrate much more on his storytelling and not just cutting cameras.
Yeah, and the acceleration happened because of COVID, didn't it, actually? And that's one of the very few benefits and positivities that came out of COVID. I'm going to move on to a lovely subject, standards and protocols. Sounds so dull, isn't it? But it's incredibly important. So what are you excited about or maybe worried about, Tia? Did you not do a PhD?
Tia, what are you worried about?
What are you worried about? Come on.
As the award-winning young technologist of the year.
Or excited. Let's be positive.
I always like to go from an excited point of view rather than a concerned one. I think, especially at IBC this year, we saw a really interesting push.
Look, let's put some homework into this. Very impressed.
And it's so analog.
Aren't we all, deep down?
I saw there was a really interesting award actually for, I think it was a new codec that had just come out or something like that. But I feel like the future is bright. I'm remaining positive for the future of codec.
Yeah, I mean, what other developments, Ian, did you see that, is going to be important for equipment makers and system integrators? What you caught your eye?
Well, to touch on the standards thing, I think it is important to know that there are two routes for standards. There are the standards that get defined after multiple generations of review and process in organizations and meetings across a number of years. And then there are standards that evolve out of getting things done. And it's the fact that even now today, we have both being done. Both are valuable. Both meet their need. Of course, it's always valuable as well to take that de facto standard and make it more broadly open. That's a really important point. But it's also important that we take those more long drawn out thought standards that are developed in response to customer need to get them to be a little bit quicker to market so that we can balance both of those together. And encoding is one area where we saw that thing. We've got more of the MPEG approach using VVC that's coming through. That's been a long time coming. There's a new codec coming after that, which is something called H.267. That's all well and good. But we've also got AV1 and AV2 as more de facto standard based, from the bottom of the industry upwards coming through. But what's interesting about all of those codec developments is that they are evolving as they come to market to what they can actually do. And we've created a world where we have lots of different codecs, where it's not a bad thing so much as a good thing that we can now pick a codec to work specifically for the use case we want to use, particularly with online streaming-based delivery, where the codec is matched to the device consuming it.
Is fragmentation, though, a bit of a concern on the other side?
You've always got to balance that, but you've got to think of it that fragmentation is another word for flexibility.
Oh, he's been very positive tonight, isn't he? Yeah.
He's like you work in the industry. Oh, my God.
I work in an industry where you have to get SHIT done.
If layering into the standards question,
into the
number
SHIT.
SH double hockey sticks.
I didn't know whether I could say that word.
No, you are live on air.
Yes.
You can swear.
Covered well.
RTS and IET.
Okay, are we done with
We're
standards?
in a room of engineers. I wanted to touch on what's exciting about if we are going to really, let's talk about standards. You cannot do any of that without collaboration. And really, learning together and getting that collaboration into play. And standards that I see bubbling and forming throughout the industry, but primarily, within our circles of engineers and, IET, SMPTE, everyone else, is around, those ethics, responsibility, back to the AI stuff, but also really importantly, the protection of your IP, the protection of those assets, provenance. Again, another project Mark led around stamping content and provenance, where you've got not only the broadcasters really laying these foundations of what is needed to protect that content, but you also have the hardware manufacturers, Sony, developing a camera where they're stamping the content as they film. And it's just incredible to see the industry step up to protect their own content and protect what's being said.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to step on the collaboration part. I mean, you see formats like MXF coming out, and it's so nice to see that everyone's coming together to try and solve this common problem. So yeah, a collaboration I think is massive.
And the C word was on display at IBC, wasn't it? Collaboration was the name of the game across Hall 14 and all the other halls. I mean, it really was, it's an easy word to say, but actually you saw it in action. You saw everybody coming together, the engineers working with all aspects of the industry. I thought that was very prominent when you were looking around IBC.
Did you think it was more than ever before?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah.
I'm just glad we didn't go to the other C word.
Yeah. You started this.
Content.
Right. Come on, let's go to
Canapes.
Sustainability. This should be a home run for you as well. You've already mentioned it already, but talking about sustainability and responsible innovation. And one of the things I want to think about is how do you ensure sustainability and ethical practices while keeping pace with innovation? I mean, purpose, ethics, and sustainability are now core expectations. Sounds good in theory. Are we doing enough of it? So how do you ensure that we embed sustainability and ethical practices while keeping pace with innovation? And in a way, have you got an easy example? Because
I've got the easy answer is generally, especially since the huge rise in oil prices, what's good for the planet is also good for your pocket. That's the sort of mantra we have, right? And generally that's the case. So if you're doing something that you think is innovative that isn't good for the environment in the long term, you should probably think about whether it's good on ROI as well. You don't be doing something for the sake of it. It's got to have some tangible output. That doesn't mean you can't fail. That doesn't mean that you can't try multiple things. But you should be having an aim and having a goal. If you're just doing it because it's interesting, then it's probably questionable.
Tia?
I think having worked at a broadcaster and whose sustainability is so important, I can't see a way forward without the big giants in the industry taking sustainability and really holding it with both hands going forward. It's the way forward, and it's the way to continue the industry going on in a positive way.
Yeah, I'm going to open up to the floor in just a moment. I just want to quickly bring in about skills gaps and workforce issues. So I'm going to move on. Sorry, you don't get a bite of the sustainability cherry.
I need to do.
I know.
I got some.
You wanted to say?
Be quick. I'll get.
Go on then. Go on.
TLDR for sustainability is good engineering design. Take it into account from day one. Simple as that. Nothing more, nothing better. Don't create stuff.
You've got the audience there.
And when sustainability. Don't forget about compute power.
Yes.
And things that are happening within
Edge
chips and GPUs, CPUs, MPUs, and things going into things like HP and Dell, like really considering what they're doing with the even laptops.
Yep.
For example.
Okay.
Well, people forget about that.
Our biggest challenge with sustainability with AI is that it can let you do lazy computing in effect, right? Rather than doing it in the best way possible. If you were to take someone that wrote code for a set-top box, they would know how to write that in the minimum amount of code possible. And AI, you worry about that. You just get it out quickly.
Now, can I move on? I got my panel's permission to move on to the skills gap. Just again, and I know you did some work on this, and the IBC talent programme was pretty impressive as well, bringing together all sorts of industry leaders, advocacy groups and young professionals for a day of debate. But just want to broaden it out before I come to you, where do you see the skills gap and what impact is that having on the industry? And I'm thinking about that backdrop of Gen AI disruption, possibly, sector consolidation, and a gap between talent and opportunity. So where do you see the skills gap? Who wants to go with that one first? Go on, Muki.
You've made eye contact with me.
Yes, go
very
for
quickly.
it.
Okay. in a way, the skills gap is kind of spreading. Like normally it would be kind of like a generational thing, or the development of your hardware is relying on the software is relying on the hardware. What is the end user doing? It's now kind of covering the full spectrum, I think, of people. We're all upskilling now. And I think it is that transitional tipping point in the industry where we're having to, like, learn a new tool,
Retrain.
learn a new software, learn new clouds. How do we keep going? How do we keep going and creating? How do we keep making things to get people excited about broadcasting? How do we make things to people get back into the stadium, get back into watching things together and getting involved? But I think. Yes, I mean, the talent program was a great example of that. Was again in Hall 14. Oh, I'm going to finish in one second. Again in Hall 14, where that was really showcasing the opportunities if you do need upskilling, where to go, and programs to get involved in. And it doesn't matter what age you are. I think you'll find there's always an opportunity to upskill, no matter which direction you're in.
Well, there was a panel, wasn't there, on recruitment, retention and representation. There was a talent showcase. Ian, I'll let you speak in a minute. Yes. Mentorship in action, and there was an untapped talent section as well, or session. So it pretty much covered the length and breadth of some of the challenges being faced. Yeah. Ian, what are you going to say?
I took part in the talent program as well on behalf of the IET, and pretty much, if I wanted to sum up the two sessions, that we have a challenge at both ends of our industry. We have a challenge with the fact that we have an aging workforce who are taking with them knowledge and experience and not having someone to hand it over to for a variety of different reasons. And we also have the problem on entry. We have a challenge of having young people enter the television industry because it isn't seen as cool enough, basically. And that's our challenge, is how do we solve those? We had a great many discussions. One of the issues actually is about investing in that transfer of knowledge from people as they move through their 50s and 60s to retirement. And we need people coming in at the bottom end, and that means investment in basically starter people who are not necessarily who come through the mainstream broadcast route or mainstream university route. Yeah. People who come in who may have been doing different types of work, and bringing those in and teaching them how to actually deliver content and technology that we need.
And just last comment from Tia before I go to the floor. I mean, what inspired you to get into the industry, Tia?
I wanted to step on that. So my background was, I grew up being very creative. Can you tell? I grew up doing musical theatre and acting, and then lockdown hit, and that's when my GCSEs completely stopped. So I then went, I need to get a job. I ran into production, and then I was kind of like, where do I go from there? I didn't want to go to university. But there was a degree apprenticeship running with Channel 4, which is such a phenomenal way to get young people into the industry. Going in, I worked there for 3 years. I worked within the online and linear space across all kinds of departments, getting really in with technology, deploying things and managing things, and really understanding fundamentally what it meant to be an engineer. But as a part of that, learning from my colleagues and from my managers, I also got my degree alongside it, which definitely helped when I then transitioned to becoming an engineer, now that I've graduated formally. So I think that the skills gap can fundamentally be tackled by having these kinds of programs like degree apprenticeships, like internships, or like events like Simply Young Innovators, which introduce the young students into these kinds of events where there are industry professionals who want to teach younger people. I think that is fundamentally the way that we reduce the skills gap.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, let's open up to the floor because I am conscious of time. We're going to take away 2 of your mics. Don't take it personally. Oh, no, so you can, not my mic. No, you can share. You don't need a mic. So you can share. There's a lady that's caught my eye right at the back. I want Phil to do loads of running around tonight. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to scatter it around the room. Actually, we've got 2 on. Hello there. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself quickly.
Hi there, my name's Rosie.
Hi, Rosie.
Thanks for your talk. Really interesting to hear your views. What advice would you give to the people who are, working in editing, for example, or people that it's not the young generation or the older generation, but the people that are struggling for work right now and are, it's just the industry seems to be sort of at a lull. And what advice would you give in regards to sort of AI and learning a new skill, for example?
Yeah. Dan, do you want that one? He's got lovely red socks on, so I thought that's why I've selected you.
So, I mean, yes, it is. The industry is in it's a difficult place. All of the creative industries are ultimately funded on the back of an advertising market that's struggling due to tariffs and things like that. I get that. I have a lot of empathy. In the post-production world specifically, I recommend is the being able to use the AI to go at a much faster pace, and be able to use it effectively to correct it. It isn't able to do it yet, but it is able to help. You know, if it can make the first attempt at something, if it can help an editor work without an edit assistant, as an example, then it can do that, rather than it's trying to sort of see it as a competition.
Muki.
You could also think about looking at tools that could help.
Take the mic, Muki.
Hi, Muki. Thinking of looking at tools and just look out for workshops happening, look out for free events like this, you know, the things that are running like adjacently, even just like go on like Meetup and Eventbrite, and there might be like free AI training workshops, but also tools that could assist with like maybe, you know, once upon a time you had to log things, and now there could be things that could help you make your edit better. You know, that can kind of like plug into the bigger picture. I'm not sure if you're long form, short form, or what you're working on, but I think it's those little bits and pieces can help.
Hopefully you got some good advice there. Was anything?
Rosie, is that it?
Rosie, was there a comeback on that?
Sorry, I'm not an editor. I'm just working within the recruitment industry. It was just interesting that I spoke to an editor. No, I spoke to an editor today, and I was trying to give them advice on sort of how they can, you know, show some more, I don't know, credibility.
It goes back to what Dan said.
Well, I think
take the tools that are free, take the tools that are available, use whatever you can get in terms of capabilities like PC. Yeah, just do. Practice, do.
And if they get a job because of this advice, do we get the commission or something, or share it? Okay. Do we have a question over? There's a lady here, and then I'll come to you afterwards. Thank you.
It's been very interesting. I'm extremely ignorant of almost everything you've been talking about, but I just wanted to ask two things. One is my understanding in terms of sustainability is that AI is already having a massive impact on, you know, caverns in Norway where they have stuff that enables computerization to happen. Is that not the case? The second thing, I'll just get two bites in.
Go for it.
I haven't heard anyone really say anything about audiences or what viewers might want or what we're looking for, or do we want films about lions and empathy?
Well,
you didn't know you did. So you didn't know you needed it.
And sleep.
Well, go on, Ian.
I'll go for about. I'll answer the second one. IBC is traditionally much more about the technology, and we've got demands coming on us from content providers who are not necessarily always attentive to IBC, but they are there. They've always been there in the background, but it's actually a place for technology discussion about how to meet the demands of those content providers. So that's the easy question. The harder one on the sustainability front is sustainability. I'm going to say something really controversial here. Sustainability is not about using less energy. It's actually about helping those people who are generating sustainable energy sources to have a better chance of meeting the demands using those sustainable sources, and us actually using the energy in an effective manner to meet what we need to have done. Now, we always have to qualify what we're doing. Is that something that's worthwhile? Yes or no? And then we have to make sure we do it in the most energy effective way possible. Now, AI is a challenge because of the fact it does use a lot of energy, but actually the challenge is more for AI for me. It's not about the fact they're building data centers. It's the fact they're building data centers the wrong way or in the wrong places, and putting massive demands on local environments that are not suited for data centers. Certainly in the US and the people, but this, like for example, the biggest places for building data centers in the US are in the southern United States, in deserts where they need water.
Yeah.
And it's like, and these are areas that are already challenged with water supplies, and this is not the place to do it. Admittedly, they do actually have solar energy availability, not that necessarily they're doing that in the US at this point, because it uses windmills. That's not popular, apparently. But yeah. But this is it. It's about the fact that we've got to look at how we get things done, and we've got to make sure we use the most effective and efficient manner to get what we need done. We need to qualify what we're doing, of course, but the focus is on that good engineering design.
But actually, it's a valid question because the costing of AI, often people don't know the answer to that. I did a session recently at a broadcaster and someone asked the question, how much is AI actually costing in relation to the sort of the savings it's making and the energy it's using up?
I'm going to quote an unnamed CEO who told me at IBC an important fact from his perspective. He's challenged with regard to AI because it works better than what he can do with his product. It's slightly better. It's 5 or 10% better, and that's wonderful. But what he sees is not being charged for the full cost of that AI yet. He's being charged for the usage, but not the models.
We've started something now.
And I'm talking about the fact that right now, we're almost being addicted to AI in the fact that we're getting our freebies of the fact that here you go, you can use something that's really going to cost you £20 a month or whatever, or $20 a month. And it's fantastic. But right now, they've built those models and they're building that infrastructure that runs those models based upon investors' money. Yeah. And like all good crashes, the reality will come in at some point and they're going to try and charge us. But that charge at the moment is looking very much higher than what it's costing us today. Certainly not enough to justify that 10% improvement in the product.
It's quite interesting you mentioned sustainability, and not that I work for Formula E, but I've done quite a few sessions with different colleagues of yours from Formula E. And here is an industry, or the sport leading the industry, bizarrely, isn't it? So it might be worthwhile telling the audience about, if you've got an electric vehicle, how long it takes to charge up, 40 minutes as opposed to filling up petrol or diesel a couple of minutes. But actually, the innovations that you are testing and showcasing is all about fast charging and supercharging. And that sport should enable the industry to follow what the sport are doing.
And it's a journey.
Yeah.
Yes,
got to get
someone's
got to get a journey. Yes. Yeah.
We would have said that about cloud. What you just described about AI, we said that about cloud. It's not gone anywhere. It's still here.
Oh, it's still
needed. And before that, people said it about. I don't think I was here then, but before that, they said it about digital. Yeah. And again, that's still here. The world evolves.
Yeah.
And you've got to look forward. So when Formula E started, they couldn't get a car battery that was big enough to finish a race. So you had to get out the car, the first generation of car. You had to get out the car halfway through and get another car. But you had to do that in order to start to push that forward to get the car manufacturers trying things out in a racing environment that then led to the road. And that's what they're doing now with the charging. Is how fast can you charge? And if you can show that in a racing environment, then you can get that into the real world.
Yeah, and just about what do audiences want, we just ran out of time on topics to talk about that. But you're right, at the end of the day, it's when it comes to latency, costs, whatever, what do viewers want? And when you think about the choices at the moment, we want something to be on just one platform as opposed to having to log in and out of different. I think we said about this, the future of TV, when Mark was around 4 or 5 years ago. Mark was talking about this. We wanted simplicity, didn't we? In many ways. I don't know if you remembered that.
And ultimately, our experience so far is audiences don't know what they want, which is the biggest challenge.
That could be another RTS session.
Yeah, another RTS session.
Don't know. No.
Yeah,
they're
right.
Just discovering it.
There's a question here. Do we have any questions over there, Phil, as well? Is there a hand up? There's a lady there, thank you. We'll come to you first, though.
So, hi, I'm Dom. I think known to some of the people in the room, participant in the Accelerators as a vendor and also quite involved in the sustainability conversations. But I've been quite heartened to hear the conversations about young people getting into the industry. I wrote an article about a year ago and as part of that research was shocked at the drop-off at the under 40s. It's just, there's no one there. So this year I took my daughter, who's literally just finished her A-levels, to IBC. She's curious about working in the media industry, and I thought we'd find out whether we'd put her off or not. So she came with me to IBC, and at the end of the second day, I sort of asked her, what do you think of the conference? And she looked around and she said, well, it's basically WaspCon. And I think that is a problem in the industry. I think it is absolutely terrifyingly white men. And I think that's a big problem. I know that there is increase, and I know there are some admirable and amazing women working in the industry and people of colour and all these things, but it's significantly underrepresented. And as she said it, I was standing on the beach and I looked around and I couldn't see any women, anyone of colour, anyone other than white men. And I think that's a real problem, and I think it's intimidating. It was White Dude Beach Bar Day, and it was at its worst, so it was the right point. But I'm really glad to hear the conversations up. I'd like to ask IBC if there's opportunities to get sponsorship from HR and to create schools within the floor, have platform that's organised by the under 30s, not with the over 50s telling them what to think, this sort of stuff. I think it needs to be invigorated.
Yeah.
And because if you think about it, I was on the World Skills Board where we put apprenticeships back on the map in the UK, still a long way to go. But I did that role 2008 to 2012, and parents, carers, teachers had no idea kind of the career opportunities. I mean, we just don't. We've got children. If you do and don't have children, often we don't know what opportunities are out there. And so unless you're in the know and in the industry, then what advice can you give? There was a bit of an intake there by you.
I completely agree. I think my first IBC, I was shocked at how many people were there in general. But I do want to say that it is getting better. There are groups like Rise for Women in Broadcast who collaborate for women and empower them to get in the industry and be more confident in those roles. But I feel like for young people, and any advice, especially for your daughter, if she is wanting to get into broadcasting, it's that you need to have that thick skin, you need to be confident, and you need to just keep trying. It's a very tough industry to break into, and I feel like having those attributes can do nothing but propel you forward in whatever area that she definitely wants to go into.
But often people don't know what the opportunities are. They don't realise actually what a great industry there is.
Yeah, and Rise has been doing this, but other organisations have recognised that actually we're not hitting them early enough. We've got to hit them at 10 years old.
Yeah.
We've got to hit them at 12.
Yeah.
At this moment in time, most ambassador type work, STEM work, etc., that I've seen, they hit them at 15 and they've already chosen their GCSEs and they're already set in their ways and views of what they want to do. And it's hard to change them at that point.
Yeah.
And the IET is behind some of that work and they are trying that, but it actually requires more of a redoubling of efforts.
My producer's tapping the watch, so I've got one more question. There was a lady that was lined up there. So you can ask your question in person afterwards, but there was a lady that was, I think, where was she?
In the middle.
In the middle. Yeah, I think you had your hand up earlier, so there we go. Thank you.
She gets to that. Why is IBC on a weekend? And how does that work for parents?
So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, isn't it?
Two of my team were unable to go because they were looking after children that weekend.
Yeah. Well, you'll quite happily look after them, wouldn't you? You brought your daughter.
Yeah.
By the way,
hopefully that's not a problem for your daughter just yet.
For a crash, like about 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on a weekend because because it was done by people in their spare time originally.
Okay.
So maybe that needs a rethink.
On a weekend, though.
Yeah.
Let's go to the question, please.
Sure. Hi.
Hello there.
So I was just kind of wondering, as people, engineers and people within the technology sector in broadcasting who attended this conference, what is the goal of all of this technology? Because I keep hearing about innovation and how it's all striving towards this, and this is exciting, but what is it that people who attended this conference think the broadcasters want? Like, what do we think the audiences are looking for? What is the broadcaster side and the audience side? What is this innovation how is it going to benefit them? Like, you spoke a lot about basically looking at increasing spec across the board and making that a little bit more accessible and increasing clarity and visuals, but like most people aren't going to notice, in my experience, audiences don't really care about the difference in bit rate, like if the content's good. So where is the technology going and how's it going to benefit the broadcasters and audiences?
Well, the audience want things to work, don't they? They don't often think about what's behind it. They just want it to be a good experience.
So they shouldn't have to think about the bit rate. So I just kind of, as a kind of IBC, a little bit of a rep here, but it's coming up to 60 years that this conference has been running. Is one of the oldest and kind of one of the most recognized and established media production technology shows in the world. And the purpose was originally based off tech papers and engineering for engineers to, go and apply what they've been learning in the tech papers to hardware, to the software. But ultimately, it's about keeping the industry going in production. And that's like that again, that full ecosystem, that full end to end. But I think like we've got a really great panel here, and I think it'd be good to hear.
I can only take one more comment because I'm just conscious of time.
I wanted to add one thing. The fact about the bit quality you don't really care about, well, actually you should, because we already decided what you're getting, and we've already done that work that we didn't have to tell you about, and we didn't tell you about, but it's been done for you to get the right quality that you will find acceptable.
I'm going to jump in really, really quickly. Audiences want content for them. As we go into more of a modern age of short form content, and especially people of my generation, I want things for me. So you see projects which are working within the innovation space for personalization. There was a really good accelerator actually about how do we take, for example, a live football stream and make it personalizable for you. There's a way that you can have it so you look at the players that you want to look at. So there are projects definitely that are going on in the background that are building up. So it is happening, but unfortunately not yet, but it's coming. It's coming soon.
Wow, we've just opened up the beast, haven't we? So thank you very much to Dan, Tia, Ian and Muki. Big round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you. You're so lovely. And thank you for your questions. I just want to introduce, just to wrap things up, from the IET, please give a very warm welcome to Matthew Davis.
Hello everybody, and thank you very much for your attention. I just wanted to finish up with some slides from the IET and the RTS introducing the events that we're running over the next few months. So, you're here in the Central London network. There are various other parts of the London network in Harrow and Hammersmith. They likewise run events, and we also have, beyond just the Wednesday evening events that we run once a month, we also have the Friday lunch and lecture events. So if you are interested, if you see any interesting topics up there, then please feel free, take a photo, register for these events. They are absolutely fascinating. You're at one of them now, so hopefully that convinces you that it's worthwhile. And on the RTS's side, so they've got a variety of different places where they're hosting these, including online. Likewise, some absolutely fascinating topics there. Mitchell and Webb, definitely a big fan there, so be looking forward to that one. Again, please take note of these and feel free to register for them. I'm sure that you'll find them entertaining. And with that, thank you very, very much. We have more refreshments available. Please feel free to stay behind for networking and just to have a chat and continue the conversation. Thank you again to all of the panelists and to Nadine for hosting this, and hopefully I'll see you again.